Okay, Michael, I might be echoing some of the things your dear friend Jay-Z said, which I guess you really had no credence for since you're still standing on your point of view. But that's, I'm not saying you didn't respect his point of view, but you did not agree with it, even though it's just facts. Um, I don't think you understand the entirety of the situation. I don't think you understand how everything that Kendrick was waking up about this uh, multi-platinum, very famous rapper who was at the top for a very long time um, was basically a phony. That was literally the whole thesis of it. Okay, since you're in academia, here terms you can understand. It was the thesis was Drake was a big old phony, and nobody likes a phony. How was he a phony? You said. You ask. Well, if you actually listen to all the lyrics of Not Like Us instead of just kind of on the outside, just knowing what was said, you probably just understand that, you know, Kendrick referred to Jake and his camp as pedophiles, and that's like the extent of what you really understand about Not Like Us. But since you read a lot, if you don't want to hear it because you feel like it's going to hurt your ears, because you might be one of them black people who hate rap or something, I wouldn't put it past you. Read the lyrics thoroughly and a few times. The whole premise of what Kendrick was calling out was Jake's phoniness. It was not his non blackness strictly because he's mixed. That was never the point or any statement in what he was calling Drake out for. Okay, Drake, with all his power, um, and all his popularity, would often find um, very obscure people who had a good sound immediately find these young people who don't have any money, who's just trying to barely make it, getting their stuff, probably don't even have 100 views on their music or whatever to make it. He would offer them fame by getting on a song with them and or just borrowing their song straight up. Also, a lot of lack of originality was also what he was calling Drake out for. He just takes on whatever he finds, but the trade off for that often, and let me try to go fast, would be that he would make them sign away all of their rights to his music and to their own music, to give it to Drake so Drake could remix it the way he wanted to. And on top of that, kind of lock him into that contract to become one of his writers. And like they had no leeway. Most of these people who had this big increase of fame because they did the one song with Drake often had no more success after that. And then were tied up in using their own fame, using that fame to even push up their career because all of their masters and everything was tied up with him. It was predatory. That was a predatory thing he did consistently, which is why some of the writers that were on Drake's team secretly came to Drake. Secretly came to Kendrick and gave him all this information on Drake that Kendrick could not have possibly known. And that's another thing he called out. Why don't you pull up all the rap battle songs and read all the lyrics. It's less than one of the books you frequent, I'm sure. Read them all, okay? Maybe then you'll have a better understanding of what you're trying to break down when you really don't understand what you're breaking down. Because he says that in one of his, in Kendrick's song for him, he's like, you must be a horrible person. There are people who are volunteering things to me. There are people who are working with me to bring you down because you must be a horrible bully. He was calling him out for being a phony who appropriates other people's work, calls it his own, and that's what appropriation takes. Is you take somebody else's art, which is fine. Art borrows from art, but you take it from somebody else and then you call it your own. That's what the appropriation is. He appropriated many young people, many young artists, made them his writers, was a writer, then stopped writing his own stuff. And then he would assume different modes. Like, at first he was all about love, and now just because he's associated with this person, now he's a gangster. That was never his persona. So it was about him being phony. It wasn't just because he was mixed. He even referred to his son, who was only a quarter or an eighth black, as a black man. So it was not simply because he was a mix. That was not Kendrick's thing. It's because Drake is detached and he is an appropriator. And he has went on that trajectory and went in and didn't care. He is a user and abuser, and he also preys on young women. And there's a lot of evidence for that. And so do the people in his camp. And this is why he referred to them as pedophiles. It had nothing to do with race. Nothing. That's all I have.